Did you know that some of those fancy exhaust systems can produce noise levels that cause permanent hearing damage in under 15 minutes? Or that certain handlebar configurations actually reduce your reaction time by nearly half a second? The difference between avoiding a crash and ending up in the hospital? In this video, I'm breaking down 10 motorcycle trends that look cool, but are actually dangerous, expensive wastes of money, or just plain stupid. And I guarantee, at least one of them is something you've considered doing to your bike. Number 1. You've seen them rolling down the streets. Those bikes so covered in chrome they're practically rolling disco balls. Chrome exhaust tips, chrome wheel covers, chrome engine guards, chrome everything. But here's what the chrome obsessed don't want you to know. All that shiny stuff is weighing down their ride in more ways than one. Let's take a quick history lesson. Chrome accessories became the hot thing back in the 60s and 70s when customization meant luxury. A few chrome accents showed you had money to spend on your bike. But somewhere along the way, we went from tasteful accents to full-on chrome addiction. Guys are chroming parts that nobody even sees. What's really happening when you add all that shiny stuff? Think about this. A complete chrome package can add up to 40 pounds of completely useless weight to your motorcycle. That's like permanently strapping a kindergartner to your gas tank and trying to take corners. Physics doesn't care how pretty your bike looks. Every single pound affects how your bike handles. Your braking distance increases, your acceleration suffers, and you'll burn more fuel just pushing around all that extra weight. And chrome is seriously heavy compared to the lightweight materials manufacturers are using these days. The problems go beyond just performance. When you crash, and let's be honest, most of us drop our bikes eventually. All those chrome bits become expensive brake points. They catch on the ground instead of sliding. They snap off. They dent. And then you're looking at replacing all that fancy chrome all over again. But the absolute worst part is what you don't see. The chrome plating process uses some seriously nasty chemicals. We're talking cyanide compounds and hexavalent chromium. That stuff causes cancer and destroys ecosystems when it gets into water supplies. Your shine comes with a seriously dirty environmental price tag. While environmental disasters haunt the chrome plating world, let's talk about motorcycles that look like they're being pulled apart by invisible forces. Ever notice those sport bikes with stretched swing arms that extend the rear end so far they can barely turn a corner? These bizarre modifications fundamentally destroy what motorcycles were built to do. Look, I get it. Stretched swing arms actually serve a real purpose in drag racing. When you're launching with 200 horsepower on tap, that extension helps keep the front wheel down and maintains traction during those crucial first seconds of acceleration. But here's where things get stupid. 99% of riders with these mods never see a drag strip. What they do see is an absolute nightmare when taking any corner. A typical 6-inch stretch completely wrecks your bike's geometry, increasing your turning radius by a whopping 40%. In real-world terms, that curve you used to take at 50 miles per hour, now you're fighting your bike at 30, leaning way off just to make it happen. The danger here isn't just looking ridiculous. In emergency situations, these stretched abominations need significantly more space to execute evasive maneuvers. We're talking up to 15 additional feet to make the same lane change that could save your life. That's the difference between avoiding an accident and becoming part of one. Insurance companies aren't stupid either. Many charge substantially higher premiums for stretched bikes, and some flat out refuse to cover them because their accident statistics are so abysmal. When actuaries, the most boring risk-calculating people on Earth, think your modification is too dangerous, maybe reconsider your choices. I've literally stood at bike meets watching riders with stretched swing arms make 3-point turns to exit parking spaces that normal bikes simply lean and roll through. All while the rider pretends this is exactly what they wanted their $15,000 precision machine to do. Number 3. Speaking of riders destroying their expensive machines for pointless modifications, let's talk about the literal damage happening to their bodies. After just 15 minutes of exposure to many aftermarket exhausts, you're already causing permanent damage to your hearing. And no, those earplugs you occasionally remember to wear aren't solving the problem. Let's kill this myth right now. Loud pipes save lives is complete nonsense. What actually happens is riders convince themselves they need these ear-splitting exhausts for safety when all they're really doing is announcing to the world that they crave attention more than they value their hearing. The numbers are shocking. Most aftermarket systems pump out between 100 to 120 decibels. For reference, a jackhammer hits about 100 decibels. Hearing damage starts at just 85 decibels with ongoing exposure. At 120 decibels, you're cooking your eardrums in under 15 minutes. That's not my opinion. That's medical fact. Here's what's really disturbing. The National Institute for Occupational Safety found that 44% of riders with loud exhausts showed significant hearing loss after just 5 years. Not a minor loss, we're talking, what did you say? Level damage that doctors can't fix. Ever. Your hearing doesn't grow back. And it's not just your ears suffering. These systems typically wreck your bike's performance. Manufacturers spend millions engineering the perfect back pressure and fuel mapping for your specific engine. Then you come along with your $300 eBay special and throw all that science in the trash. The result? Less power, worse fuel economy, and a bike that runs like garbage. The social impact is just as bad. Communities across the country are literally passing anti-motorcycle ordinances specifically targeting noise. That means fewer places to ride, more hassle from police, and more people who hate motorcyclists. All because some riders can't resist making their bikes scream. Number 4. From sound pollution to light pollution. There's another trend making motorcyclists less safe while they think they're doing the opposite. Ever notice how underglow lighting seems to grab your attention when you're driving? That's exactly the problem, and it's getting riders hit in ways they never anticipated. This whole underglow craze started in the car tuning scene back in the Fast and Furious days. When LEDs got cheaper and more accessible, motorcyclists naturally wanted their slice of the neon pie. Now we've got bikes that look like they're floating on radioactive rivers. Great for social media, terrible for actual road safety. Here's the dangerous part. Those flashy lights are literally hypnotic to other drivers. It's not just my opinion. Researchers have documented how unusual lighting patterns pull drivers' attention away from the road. Your brain is hardwired to notice unusual movement and light patterns. When drivers fixate on your light show instead of your actual motorcycle, disaster follows. The evidence is piling up in accident reports. Police in multiple states have documented crashes where drivers became so distracted by motorcycle underglow that they either rear-ended the bike or swerved directly into its path. Your light kit isn't making you more visible in a good way. It's making you a target. Then there's the legal nightmare. In 41 states, any colored lights visible from the front or sides of your vehicle are explicitly illegal. The reason? They can be confused with emergency vehicles. I've met riders who racked up over $2,000 in tickets from a single road trip because they didn't realize their fancy light kit was breaking the law in every town they passed through. If visibility is your actual concern and not just looking cool, there are much better options. Quality reflective tape strategically placed on your bike and gear increases visibility by up to 200% in headlights without creating dangerous distractions. Legal auxiliary lighting that illuminates the road instead of creating a dance party will actually make you safer. Number 5. After spending thousands on lighting, many riders move on to their next obsession: chasing invisible horsepower. The performance parts industry has mastered one skill above all others: convincing motorcyclists to empty their wallets for gains that exist primarily in their imagination. Let's talk numbers that actually matter. The average rider drops over $2,000 on performance upgrades. that typically generate less power than a proper tune-up would. I've seen guys proudly showing off their bikes with $800 exhaust systems, $500 air filters, and $300 fuel controllers who swear their bikes feel way faster. Yet when they finally hit the dyno, they've gained maybe 3 horsepower. That's less than a 3% increase on most bikes, something you literally cannot feel in the seat of your pants. Ever notice how the packaging on these miracle parts always includes phrases like up to or potential gains of, followed by impressive numbers? That's because the fine print matters. Those up to 15 horsepower claims are usually based on a completely different motorcycle than yours, under laboratory conditions you'll never replicate, and often compared to a deliberately handicapped baseline. The real kicker is that some of these mods actively hurt performance. Those universal air intakes often pull in hot air from directly above your engine, exactly what you don't want. Those cheap eBay performance chips are just preset fuel maps designed by nobody with any engineering credentials. And let's not forget those magnetic fuel enhancers that claim to align fuel molecules. Pure pseudoscience that's been debunked by every reputable testing organization for decades. The most expensive mistake? Bike-specific modifications that weren't actually designed for your specific model. That $1,200 race ECU your buddy recommended, it was mapped on a dyno using a completely different exhaust system than yours, with different intake modifications in a different climate. If you genuinely want better performance, start with what actually matters. Quality synthetic oil, proper tire pressure, clean air filters, and regular valve adjustments. A well-maintained stock bike will outperform a poorly maintained, upgraded one every single time. Number 6. While we've been saving your wallet from useless performance upgrades, there's another way riders throw money away. Turning their motorcycles into rolling advertisement boards. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Those bikes plastered with so many stickers you can barely see the paint underneath. Here's what's hilarious. Actual sponsored riders get paid to display those logos. Meanwhile, regular riders are spending their hard-earned cash on branded stickers, then providing free advertising to companies that don't even know they exist. You're literally paying for the privilege of being a billboard. Make that make sense. But the sticker obsession goes beyond looking like a kindergarten art project. It creates real problems. Mechanics dread working on these bikes because stickers cover important maintenance points and warning labels. I've talked to several shop owners who charge extra sticker tax fees because removing and replacing all those decals adds significant labor time to basic service. What's worse, sticker bombing has become the perfect camouflage for sketchy sellers. Safety inspectors routinely discover hairline cracks and frame damage hidden beneath layers of vinyl. Damage that could cause catastrophic failure while riding. Think about that next time you see a suspiciously well-stickered area on a used bike. And when it comes time to sell, prepare for pain. Used motorcycle valuation guides consistently show heavily stickered bikes selling for 15 to 20% less than clean examples. On a $10,000 motorcycle, your sticker collection just cost you up to $2,000 in resale value. That's one expensive Monster Energy logo. The damage isn't always temporary either. Many low-quality stickers use adhesives that chemically bond with your paint and plastics over time. Even after removal, they leave ghosted outlines or permanently discolored areas that are impossible to fully remove without repainting. If you genuinely want your bike to stand out, invest in professional paint work or a quality vinyl wrap. Unlike random sticker collections, these modifications can actually increase your bike's value while creating a truly unique look that won't scream, "I make poor financial decisions" to everyone at the bike night. Number 7. Customizing your bike should enhance the riding experience, not sabotage it. Did you know those extreme handlebar positions some riders swear by can add almost 70 feet to your stopping distance in an emergency? That's right, your cool handlebar setup might be the last bad decision you ever make. Look, I get it. Those massive ape hangers make your cruiser look tough. And those super low clip-ons give your sport bike that MotoGP appearance. But here's the problem. These extreme modifications originated purely for aesthetics with zero consideration for actual riding dynamics. When researchers studied the effects of radical handlebar positions, the results were honestly terrifying. Those tall ape hangers that push your hands above your heart, after about 20 minutes, blood literally struggles to reach your fingertips. Your hands start to go numb and your grip strength drops dramatically. Ever tried emergency braking with hands you can barely feel? It doesn't end well. On the flip side, those ultra-aggressive clip-ons aren't any better. That extreme hunched-over position puts intense pressure on the median nerve in your wrists. Hello, carpal tunnel syndrome. Even worse, your head movement becomes severely restricted. You physically can't turn your head enough to check blind spots properly, reducing your visual field by almost half in some cases. I've run safety courses where riders with extreme bars couldn't complete basic emergency maneuvers that could literally save their lives. One guy with massive ape hangers couldn't execute a simple swerve to avoid an obstacle because he couldn't physically move the bars quickly enough in his awkward position. Here's what actually works: incremental adjustments that respect proper ergonomics. A slight rise or pullback that maintains neutral wrist alignment and allows full steering lock will give you the custom look without turning your bike into a death trap. You should be able to hold your position comfortably for hours and still have full control of your machine. Number 8. Those minimalist Instagram builds with hidden wiring and deleted fenders might rack up likes, but they're hiding a dirty secret. Most can barely complete a full ride without breaking down. The modern custom scene has turned into a competition to remove as many practical components as possible, all for the sake of creating the cleanest looking motorcycle in parking lot photos. Let's talk about what actually happens when you strip away those unnecessary parts. That rear fender you chopped off, it was specifically designed to keep road debris, water, and mud from shooting directly into your suspension components and electronics. I've seen beautiful customs with exposed wiring harnesses and ECUs positioned perfectly to catch every bit of road grime and rainwater. Within months, those bikes develop mysterious electrical gremlins that cost a fortune to diagnose. Then there's the obsession with tiny lithium batteries tucked into frame crevices where no battery belongs. Sure, they save 2 pounds and make for a cleaner look under the seat, but they provide barely enough power to start the bike when conditions are perfect. Add a slightly cold morning or any additional electrical accessories, and suddenly you're the guy desperately bump-starting your show-quality build in a parking lot. The pod filter catastrophe deserves special mention. Riders rip off carefully engineered air boxes designed to provide the perfect air-fuel mixture, replacing them with pods that look cooler but wreak havoc on performance. Manufacturers have spent millions developing intake systems that maintain consistent airflow across all riding conditions, but somehow YouTube customizers think they know better. I can't count how many times I've seen gorgeous custom builds being loaded onto trailers at bike events. When I ask what happened, it's always the same story: overheating issues, electrical failures, or fuel delivery problems, all preventable if they hadn't sacrificed function for form. Number 9. Speaking of form over function, there's nothing quite as dangerous as those minuscule novelty helmets that seem more suited for a fashion runway than actual road protection. Those tiny skid lids perched on top of riders' heads might complete the retro biker aesthetic, but they're about as effective at protecting your brain as wrapping it in tissue paper. What's truly alarming is how many riders don't realize these helmets aren't just inadequate, they're practically useless in a crash. When motorcycle safety researchers tested these novelty options against proper DOT helmets, the results were horrifying. In identical impact scenarios, those fashion-first options transferred 5 to 7 times more energy directly to the brain. That's not just a slight difference in protection, it's the line between walking away from a crash and suffering permanent brain damage. You know what's even more disturbing? The counterfeit market. A multi-state investigation discovered that almost a third of these so-called DOT-approved helmets being sold were complete fakes with counterfeit certification stickers. These manufacturers are literally profiting off putting riders' lives at risk. The medical community doesn't mince words about these helmets either. ER doctors and trauma surgeons have a particularly grim nickname for them: donor buckets, because they've seen firsthand how these costume props lead to completely preventable brain injuries. When your protective gear has a nickname directly related to organ donation, that should tell you everything you need to know. Here's the most frustrating part. The financial difference between these worthless shells and actual protection is typically less than $100. That's about what a hospital charges for 15 minutes in the ICU. Think about that math for a second. Is looking cool for a few rides worth potentially spending the rest of your life unable to feed yourself? Number 10. Let's shift gears to something even more puzzling than inadequate helmets. Those pristine motorcycles that never actually feel the road beneath their tires. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Those immaculate machines at bike shows with literally 0 miles on the odometer. Welcome to the bizarre world of trailer queens. These motorcycles live their entire lives being babied, polished, and trailered from one show to another. The funny thing, they're basically just really expensive sculptures at this point. A motorcycle is a machine designed for motion. Keeping it permanently stationary is like buying a gourmet meal just to take pictures of it. What these show bike owners don't advertise is what happens mechanically to these garage princesses. Gaskets harden and crack from sitting. Fuel systems gunk up from old gas turning to varnish. Batteries slowly degrade even when disconnected. One mechanic I know calls these time bombs with pretty paint, because when they finally do get started, something expensive usually breaks. The psychology here is fascinating. Studies of collector behavior show these owners have shifted from valuing the experience to valuing the possession itself. It's no longer about riding, it's about owning something others admire. One motorcycle collector psychology study found that many trailer queen owners experience the same dopamine release from receiving compliments on their bike as actual riders get from the thrill of the open road. The most absurd part? Many of these bikes are decked out with race-inspired components, lightweight wheels, performance suspension, and track-focused upgrades, all of which will never serve their intended purpose. It's like buying an Olympic swimming pool you're never allowed to get wet. I once talked to a guy who spent over $30,000 customizing a Ducati Panigale that had never been started since the build was completed. So after looking at all these ridiculous trends, what's the real takeaway here? It's pretty simple. The motorcycle industry makes money when they convince you that you need something you absolutely don't. The essence of riding is about freedom, wind in your face, and the connection between you, your machine, and the road. Next time you're scrolling through Instagram feeling that FOMO about some trendy mod, ask yourself, will this actually make my rides better, or am I just trying to impress people at bike night?